enjoying yourself. Another great day here in Northern California. We're really excited to have two companies here with us today. Wevorce, who just finished their demo day at Y Combinator a couple weeks ago. So they're tired and frazzled, but very well prepared, I think. And then LegalForce, which has a retail store, among other things, right down the road on University Avenue near campus. So without further ado, I'll get started, and we'll have Wevorce, if you're ready. You go ahead. So we have Michelle. CEO Wevorce, thank you.
Shall I? Oh, we've got virtual. We just finished demo day, but we can't get the presentation started. Here we go.
Where's full? All right, where's full? Sorry.
Can you guys hear me? Is this on? Hello? There it goes. Yeah. So imagine being 9 years old in a courtroom with your two parents and their two lawyers. When one of your parents' lawyers walks up to you and asks, if you were stranded on a desert island, which parent would you choose to live with? This is my story, and I was that 9-year-old girl. But don't worry, this story does have a happy ending, because that moment is the catalyst for me going to law school, building a career as a family law lawyer, and to ultimately launching Wevorce, which is the civilized standard for divorce. Sadly, my story isn't unique, and every 13 seconds, someone in this country is getting divorced. Like Noelle, who read about Wevorce in her local Sunday paper last week. She told me a tale of spending years in divorce court that cost her over $50,000 in legal fees that ultimately led to her filing bankruptcy and being estranged from her kids. This is barbaric, and Wevorce intends to make this socially unacceptable. If Wevorce would have existed for Noelle and her family, her divorce would have taken less than 90 days, cost less than $10,000, and would have put the kids first. To date, we have run 110 families through our model and kept all but one of them out of court. This success had led to us going to Y Combinator. Does everyone know what Y Combinator is? Has everyone heard of Y Combinator? Anyone maybe not? Okay, for those shaking your head, no. Y Combinator is the leading startup accelerator in the country, maybe the world. So to give you an example of the size that Y Combinator has become, Inc. magazine just published an article on them that ranks them, their value at $8 billion. They have run companies like Airbnb and Dropbox. Those are some Y Combinator companies. The other claims to fame, Y Combinator is now so competitive. There were 2,600 applicants for this winter class, and we were one of 46 companies to be accepted. The interview process for Y Combinator, I have now taken 2 bar exams that consist of multiple days. For those of you that have, you can relate. For those of you heading into a bar exam, these are not fun processes. I can tell you that the 10 minutes you spend with Paul Graham defending a new idea is harder than the 3 days of a bar exam. There is anyone that's interested in getting a snapshot of what it's like to apply when meet with Paul Graham. There are plenty of applications on the web. There's a great example that we practice with, and you get literally 15 seconds. He fires questions at you to defend an idea, and there's an app someone's written that practices will ask a lot of the common questions he asks, and if you don't get it clear and concise, his face turns into a frown and says you've failed. I haven't actually seen Shark Tank, but a lot of people say there are some similarities with that. But it has been a phenomenal experience for us. Tech and the law is a very empty space. So when we arrived on the scene, they were absolutely interested in what we were doing. It is an up-and-coming area. and lawyers are a little behind in technology. Because there has been so little innovation, we're making quite a splash in the area. In the past 3 months, these are various publications and press that have written about us. The world is hungry for lawyers to do a better job than we're doing. And these are all examples of the resonance, the tone that we're striking. The reason we're here and believe that technology offers a solution. The solution is that technology is not going to replace us. It is going to make us better at what we do. And a lot of my philosophy is built on high tech for high touch. So much of the stuff that we are asked to do as lawyers could be automated. There are so many predictable factors that there's no reason that we have to continue struggling through masses of paper and project management and all of this chaos that happens. This is why I think Gandhi had a vision early on of saying a lawyer's true purpose is to unite parties driven apart. And maybe if we weren't so miserable in our own practices and in the practice of law, maybe we'd do a little bit more of this. And I actually think technology is going to help us with this. Right now, lawyers test as the highest rate of depression, highest rate of alcoholism, and highest rate of drug abuse of any occupation. There's a lot of room for improvement in the law. We haven't quite got it right. The other metric we're measuring, we're trying to measure some of the intangibles of how technology is helping our Wevorce professionals. We have scaled to 5 states and now have 28 Wevorce providers. We asked them to rank the stress of their daily practice on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most stressful. Most of them, the average came back at 8. This goes back to the highest rate of depression, alcoholism, and drug abuse. If you're living in a constant stress state of 8 on a 10 scale, you're in trouble. What we have done by adding technology and a methodology has taken so much anxiety away from our practitioners that tested again, they're down to 2s. Because they're not having to hold all of the structure and those predictable pieces by each case. We've created a standard that they can follow, and it quiets everything down for the professionals and for the clients. The clients can see what's coming. We're no longer have to put on a superhero cape. We just have to identify the steps involved, and give them the information to help facilitate resolution. What's the other fun thing that, part of the reducing of stress, what we have as we're testing it, what we have found is the technology has reduced the time that lawyers spend with paperwork and their files by 60%. 60% of your time, if that becomes free, it gives you a lot more opportunity to become a more well-balanced person, and also more time to connect with your clients so that we can return to being counselors at law again and do the part that we all generally start off on this journey in law school. So this is why we have started Wevorce. We are new into a space. We are excited to be here. We couch ourselves as a movement, not just a business. And we really want to inspire other change leaders in the law. So we will be here answering questions. I think that's the format and panel. So, yeah, so that's kind of my formal presentation. I'm sure there are lots of questions, but I prefer not to do all the talking, so fire away. Yes?
So how does your technology encourage or force people to not be confrontational or not be unaccommodating in that situation? The situation you're trying to address is one that's full of tensions and full of people who don't want to compromise. Sometimes people want to fight, they don't want to compromise. So how does technology...
And the system exists for the people that want to fight. We've already got one of those. Requires a judge at the end. The reality is 98% of even those cases settle on the steps of trial. So our whole proposition is you're likely to settle. Why not start in a settlement process? And if you need the courts, then use the courts. Part of what we have done is we're not just a legal document software. We also address all the predictable factors in emotion and in finance. So when you start putting those 3 buckets together, I always say one of my theories is they're are rarely legal problems. They're just legal implications. And it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so what we've done is reframe the entire conversation to have both parties getting the same information simultaneously and addressing these three issues. Neuroscience is now catching up with us and what a human's brain is doing in divorce. So we built that right into the model so that we're normalizing the experience, not keeping it a mystique. And all of these factors start to create a path that leads people to resolution. I say there is a script in the law, and, right now clients believe lawyers give them answers, and in reality lawyers start debates. And in family law, this gets really expensive because they're litigating a lot of emotion. And so we're just putting all those pieces into the right buckets. If it's a legal question, that's what the lawyers help with. If it's an emotional issue, that's what your counselor can help with. If it's a financial issue, we've got financial professionals that can help you. If you get those issues in the wrong bucket, that's what leads to $100,000 year-long divorces. Yes?
Could you get some detail on your business model, starting from how do you get your customers, when did you start, where are your business cycle, what's your revenue model,
Wow. Okay, first one. Business model.
Where do you source your customers from?
Okay, so back to this one. Right now, we haven't spent a dime in client acquisition. This story is very resonant. Again, we are being very careful. My passion really, because of my story, comes from helping families. And a lot of that has hit a chord. The divorce wound is so loud in this country. And that email from Noelle, we get those constantly. Thanks for fixing this divorce. Move to tears. People are craving that release. So right now, it is coming through a lot of those press channels. We have scaled to 5 states. We have the 28 providers. So clients can come, they may hear about us right now with all the press. They're coming in through the Wevorce website. Hi, would love what you're doing. I need your help. They're also come from the existing lawyers who have family law practices. Because of that high stress and how behind most solo practitioners are, or small firms are, they're handing us their clients that are coming in the door. Like, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it Wevorce way because it makes it easier. So they're also being incentivized to do that.
Can you just elaborate on your revenue model? Are you contingency fee based, or how are you based, how are you getting revenues, and how are you breaking even?
So the average, so we have a price range of $3,500 to $15,000. We work in a flat fee model. We, as the technology company, the clients come in through us to work in the technology. We hire the mediators, the 3 professionals, the lawyers, the counselors, and the financial architect as independent contractors to help run the technology and the methodology to get the family through the process in their local communities.
Thank you. Just a suggestion for you. Are you familiar with
The
law without walls?
law without walls,
So
no.
something to look at, because they're in UK and US, and they're in
Oh, very good. Very good. This is my co-founder, Jeff, by the way. He's been a fabulous contribution, and you'll get to talk to him as we get more Q&A. In fact, I may bring him up here, too, so you can pick his brain.
Thanks. I guess maybe some other people have more background on this than I do, but I was wondering if you could more specifically talk step by step how the product and the service works. Like when someone comes in to interact with Wevorce, what are they doing? Like, who's coming in where?
Yep, and I don't think we have the slide of the 6 steps, but I can visually show you. The families walk through a 6-step process, and kind of what they see is the first circle is about mapping out what amicable looks like and kind of peeling that layer of don't kid yourselves. Most of our families show up in a very stoic state, all buttoned up. We're going to be your poster children family. We can do this amicably. The reality is that there are divorce explosions all over the place, so we want to know where they are right from the beginning. And that's what's happening in that first meeting. Each one of these circles is a 2-hour process. And they're, again, both asked to sit at the same table right from the consultation. We ask them both to come in right at the beginning. That's one of those obstacles you got to figure out even how to talk about divorce and the fact that you're getting divorced before we want to see you. If you go into a one-lawyer model, right, that's a completely different game. So right at that first part, they're getting both of that same information. We're starting to kind of dig in a little bit of what's happening. This is where the neuroscience piece comes in. They are taught about what's happening with their brain. There's a video they watch about, we call it puppy brain. When emotion is, neuroscience has now proven that emotion is stronger than thought. So when you have an emotional trigger, And by the way, divorce test is the second most stressful event that you can go through. So it's not an if, it's a when. And that's oftentimes multiple times while we're working with our clients as soon as they leave the office. So we're handing them the tools right then to say, when your puppy brain gets loose and your amygdala is on fire, what are the things you're going to do to get back on track?
Yeah, I just want to make sure. So it's very specifically, they follow this very structured 6-step process. They're interacting at various times with technology, doing some of it at home, doing some of it in office with a professional. When they're in office with a professional, other experts are piped in via video conferencing technology from all over the world. So if you have if you have a child with autism, for example, you can bring in an expert into the room with you who's an expert in child development with children without autism and deal with those issues as part of the co-parenting. It's kind of complex because of these 6 steps. Michelle just started to go with one. That's step 1. So it's kind of
it's about laying the foundation, getting the experts that you need to help address, right? All those predictable pieces, you need a parenting plan. It's going to have to address where the kids reside, how the money is going to flow around the kids. All of those are quite predictable. That's what the software holds.
Yeah, and there's utilities throughout, like basically apps that live within the software, like little mini processes that help figure out what you agree on, what you don't agree on. So you spend time on the right things, not on the wrong things. And those are all along. You're doing some of it at home and some in office. But it's facilitated by a professional.
Yes?
I'm fascinated by your puppy brain.
Yes. Law and neuroscience.
What percentage of what you do would you say relates to explaining to people what's happening to them, as opposed to the normal things a lawyer does, where you're at?
A lot. Yeah.
You have a printout,
Yeah. It's because the technology now holds all of those very basic legal questions, and provides a completely different experience, and it almost becomes a translator, right? The lawyer can be walking through this, and really filling in the template, those predictable things of the law is not that tricky part. Because of those efficiencies, now you have more time to actually educate and counsel your clients on the human aspects of going through this. The technical pieces and the timing of that is huge, right? When we as lawyers, the frontal cortex is, I call it the wise owl part of our brain, we get to live there. We think about the documents, we think about the patterns. Oh, sorry, family, you're falling apart, but we have to answer these questions. Please tell me your name, rank, and serial number. You're in your wise owl part of your brain, and wise owls and puppies can't communicate. And so learning how to navigate this as a lawyer makes you much more successful at reaching resolution. Not everyone's going to be able to do it, but if we start talking the same language, you can't start shoving financial information at someone that looks like they're a puppy. They're going to chew on the documents, take 3 months to get it done. But technology can start making all of these efficient so that we simplify it. We make it work for a puppy brain.
We can predict it, right? We're giving you what you need. I think to your point, we give you what you need in terms of education and tools before you think you need it based on a series of archetypes that we've developed. So that helps keep emotions calm and you're able to move forward.
It helps a lot to know what you're going through.
Yeah, so like
we aren't very self-aware of these.
Right, so every meeting, or one of the homework assignments is watching a video, for example, that actually explains where you're at in the process and what's coming up.
There's this awful statistic, and I'll go to you guys next. There's this awful statistic out there. I don't know if you know it, but we can all guess. How long do you think it is in a lawyer-client first meeting before the lawyer is going to interrupt the client? You have some guesses? 30 seconds. What was that one? Oh, yeah, there you go. It is that fast. It's 11 seconds before we're going to shift in. And I know why we do this. We're trained to do this, right? We take a bar. We're billing in 6-minute increments. Let's get to the facts. It's not helpful, right? That's how people end up spending. It's helpful for our pocketbooks. But they start getting drug in a process that's really about evidence and fact gathering, which is quite divisive for families going through a huge change. And so what we're doing is normalizing the change part. And sorry to simplify the law, but family law is it's not rocket science. It's, division of assets and where are the kids going. Now with technology and saving 60% of time on documents, which gets all the attention right now, we can do the stuff that matters to help kids and families through it, teach people how, because 66% of divorces do have children involved, and that wound is pretty loud right now of the effects it has on families. Yes, sorry.
I love the idea, but it seems like you're focusing on the parents and the people actually getting divorced, but you would need the whole community around
So the 28 that we have to date, so we launched in January. Literally started with me going, we need to take this idea we've been running in Boise, Idaho, and start showing up in other states. So I followed our wedge into the conversation was following collaborative law. If any of you have heard of collaborative law, everyone? And that's a movement in the law that gets lawyers into settlement negotiations in a series of 4-way meetings where they sit down at a table, lawyers agree not to go to court. They can also bring in counselors and financial professionals. So they're already a little bit congregated, used to working like this. So it allowed us to scale pretty quickly when I showed up and said, here, look what we're doing, and it's very efficient. So that's how we've been able to get these team members together. They're already aligned with our why of helping families in a different way. And now we've offered the technical solution and the methodology in the 6 steps. So,
based on what we learned about them and the intake process and kind of some of our secret sauce stuff where we're asking certain questions to learn other things, we refer them to other outside team members, counselors, for more special local. That's why it's important to have a local touch, because there's a, for most of with kids, there's a recommended amount of, I don't know if it's derogatory to say couch time. I call it couch, time with a psychologist in addition to going through this process.
And because it does affect so many people, we call it the we community, it's been really contagious, and really when you focus on helping families. And so in that contagiousness, we also, if the attorneys aren't at the mediation table facilitating the process, then they agree to review the documents for a flat fee at the back end. They're so familiar and comfortable that they are essentially building their own teams, which is very helpful as you scale. Yes?
Have you had any couples who, during this process, because it's kind of a lot better and nicer?
I have actually had reconciliations, and everyone gets really excited, but I've been doing it long enough that the reconciliations generally stick for about a year. And if they don't get the proper support underneath it, because what happens in that family dynamic is you may be apart long enough and get some tools. The tools that we use work in any phase of a relationship. I often joke now that we're, Jeff and I spend so much time together, we should launch BizVorce. That's the next one.
I was going to say, there's a business model
Yeah.
on the other side of this.
Yeah.
You guys are doing such a good job divorcing and people
Yes.
staying together that
Yeah.
who's going to say, okay, let me counsel you through right the
One
way.
of the comments that I don't know, we took it off. We had a quote from one of our clients that said, I wish we would have been able to communicate as well during the marriage as we were at the end of the marriage.
And that's back to, nobody teaches us how to do this, right? We're all expected, the script, I'm back to my script, is we follow scripts as we enter into marriage. It generally consists of a dress and a ring, and there's a script you follow when you get divorced, and those are the scripts we're trying to change. I do have a prenuptial model. Unfortunately, it's not nearly as fun and exciting as the existing wedding market, so it doesn't really work as a big business model, but there are these tools, and that's part of as we grow and build that credibility of being pro-family in whatever form it is. It's hard work. I always joke that marriage is a contact sport. Sorry, I'm lost track. Yes, I think you were next.
2 things. One, could you just go through what the 6 steps were? Just
Sure.
system, and secondly, is there a website or a way to preview reports or
Yes.
to do a trial, test, or just see how it works?
So yes, we do have a website. It's wevorce.com, and you can see the videos of how you can get lots of information, see the 6 steps there. Essentially, to break it down, it's the first 3 meetings are about reframe planning, and then building your co-parenting plan, and that's sustainable as well for not just 12 pages of documents, but how are you going to do that? And then we also, the next 2 meetings are about the finances and division of assets, and then we wrap it up in the final set of documents. Yes?
Could you compare and contrast the 2 parallels in other industries like tax software services?
Sorry, I have to repeat that.
Compare and contrast the 2 parallels in other industries such as tax software services, where there's also a model they step through and have expertise in that.
Yes, TurboTax. What are the other ones? H&R Block has kind of a hybrid model. We're trying to stay away consciously from being a franchisor, those sorts of things, and these are all the variables we have to figure out right now, which is why we've chosen to build communities of professionals that help and integrate with our system.
There's a lot of similarities, but what the difference is in is our exploration into the financial and emotional side, and basically turning emotional things that have been treated as soft and squishy, and I'm going to litigate the fact that I'm pissed off that my husband had an affair. And we're turning those into more predictable, essentially algorithms to predict what happens next. So it's actually more complex than just the facts of filling out forms.
I kind of look backwards at the existing system that we have right now in litigation for family law, and it really was developed by half of the gene pool. It's a very masculine system, right? And right now there are more women in that practice area than men, and you will see this conversation start to change. The reason that we have built this is because I have an ability to articulate things that seem intangible to, no offense to my male counterparts, seem intangible, but they're actually quite predictable. And that's just the difference, honestly, between estrogen and testosterone.
Fundamentally, we're just redesigning divorce. If you were to create divorce in 2013, what would that look like instead of 1813? Fundamentally, that's what we're doing.
Yes?
Have you considered extending the business model to include the whole marriage?
During the whole, like, through the process of marriage? Yeah, I mean, that's what I hope to, and that's why we're being really careful with our tone, is we never want to be seen as pro-divorce. We're actually pro-family. It's just that it's so hard to get those tools, right? Everyone's just kind of operating in this, I should know how to do this. And in that assumption, your marriage gets the least, I mean, we build careers that take a lot of attention, and that one always falls to the bottom of the priority, which is why we see, 52% of them ending up. One of the other things I always say around the failure rate of marriage is if anything else failed at that rate, we would have it so highly regulated that you couldn't do it anymore. I mean, imagine if your car crashed half the time. We'd be like, nope, sorry. But here we are, like, yay, marriage, wee! Ah! Yeah. Yes?
I just think it's a bit of a romantic notion to think of reconciliation because it's full of breakup because it's broken. But however, I just think there's a real opportunity for you in the wedding market, to this man's point. I think more people need to be informed about what the economic model and the 200-year-old draconian law that exists that people don't realize they're entering into.
Yeah.
I think it's an extreme gap. So whether it's a marketing material novel that you sell with the wedding,
Yes.
leading, because not everyone wants to do a prenup, there's still a market.
I think in second weddings there are. This is a neuroscience piece too. A lot of first marriages happen as a hormonal connection that's about procreation, right? It's not logical. And that's part of that disconnect. Yes, should everyone have a contract and talk about these very heavy things? But most people are uniting at that particular point in a hormonal upswing of everything's hunky-dory. In second marriages, most people know better. They know that, oh yeah, that part wears off. So a lot of those things. But we do hope to be developing a lot of, we just hit the Huffington Post and front page, and a lot of our content development is starting to address these things. The institution of marriage is a bit of a stale concept itself. Those billboards, have you guys seen those on the way to San Francisco airport? So there's 1 in 3 people will live to be 100. Someone's alive today that will live to be 150 years old. And when you start talking to people about 120-year marriages, they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And so this is these conversations. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote a really great book on commitment and actually does a great job of breaking down how we got here. Right? The institution of marriage has continuing to evolve. Right now in the law, we're questioning what this means. Can we expand it? It is a very fluid conversation, and we just tend to treat it as an absolute, whatever generation is looking at that definition. Yes? We are very much playing with that line of high tech and high touch, and how much of that humanity can you replace with technology? I don't know that answer yet, but this is why we're focused in this particular spot. Right now we're seeing the efficiencies and the things we can plug. The question is and part of my theory is that I actually don't see technology replacing the humans in this particular point. When you are going through that second most stressful event, it helps just to have someone to look at, to help, to contact, to move through that process, like coaches. I think we can really optimize and cut a lot of the cost out using technology, but I don't think Wevorce ever kind of evolves into no humans.
And it does cause stress. I mean, people just get stressed out at just trying to connect to something and their internet connection's down and like all those sorts of things. So we just try to control all the technology so it's all behind the scenes.
But I say that, and I also, part of my passion is someday with this technology and using the interface, I actually think technology makes law accessible. Jeff, right now, even though we have free legal forms on any state court you go to for family law, because there are so many pro se litigants, you can go get those forms. But Jeff printed out Seattle's a couple of weeks ago and put them all over the floor, 131 pages double-sided, and it uses words like jurisdiction. And so I walked into the room where Jeff had them all spread out, and he looked at me and goes, "What is wrong with you people?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" The lawyers have really kept that bar, and even though we're saying law is accessible, it's not for most people. In the apartment complex I'm living in right now, my maintenance man heard what we were doing and said, "Can you help me? My wife and I have been trying to get," and he's bilingual, but mostly Spanish speaking, he's been trying to get a divorce from his wife for 10 years. They finally just given up because they get sent from one area to the other area to the other area. And I was like, yes, we can help. But that's not accessible justice. And technology can fix this, right? With that new, now I can say instead of jurisdiction in these staunch legal forms, which just scare the bejesus out of people. You can't read through them, even as a lawyer, with that tiny little print, and here's the instruction. And so with that new technology interface, you can ask them, where do they live? Bloop. That can populate everywhere jurisdiction. Like, why don't we just say what we mean? But it's because right now it's so focused on the judge's needs. But technology can meet both needs at the same time, translating it. So I actually think at some point we will be able to provide an online option that makes it accessible for everybody.
What is the role of technology in legal process? Is it making it more efficient or simple to collect the information, and then doing that collection in a way that drives the parties towards settlement?
Yes, and both. So as we go through each of those meetings, the facilitators are gathering the information that's populating the document. So you can reverse engineer that and put all of those pieces in. All those predictable pieces the technology is holding. It's also holding the methodology so that I can hand it to any lawyer, even a litigator. And if he follows those steps, he's likely to get resolution instead of a fight.
And at various places it's predicting, right, behind the scenes, say, oh, you're in this situation, let me give you this bit of education.
We have those archetypal predictors. One of those predictors is that 65% of divorces are filed by women. If I had a nickel for every time I have heard a woman say, I've been telling him for years, and the man's response is, I didn't know she was serious. They're tracking, she's been in a grief process for 3 years, he's just starting. They're in different spots, they need different information, and technology allows us to do that. Just so that helps catch them up, gets them different information, and that's that homework. It starts tipping based on a lot of those predictable factors.
Let me ask back to your Y Combinator issue. The business model here. In my empirical experience with divorce, there are a tiny minority that are rational enough to enter into your program. And in any time, they may actually evolve that direction, but they may never. What was your business justification to Y Combinator?
Well, from the VC's perspective, divorce is a $30 billion market. And that's legal fees alone. It's a huge market. And when you think about divorce, you don't think about a company or a brand. You think about some lawyer. We've created a standardized process that can quickly scale and grab a market that doesn't exist yet. The wound, again, the law is shifting already. Part of the way, we believe a lot of the system causes that fight, and the culture continuing to do it. If you, again, start normalizing, identify which of those pieces, we intend to start making that look barbaric. And why would you do it that way? It does hurt like hell, but here's the tools to get through it.
The fact is, as culturally, as women have gained economic power, they can make more decisions. And the reality is that we talk about that like that's happened so long ago, but women still are paid less than men on average, so there's this battle, and as women make those decisions, they're looking for a better alternative, and we can provide
kid-centered. And the numbers are so great. 1.2 million divorces in this country a year. We only need 13,000 of those to make a significant financial dent. Arbitration and mediation, right? So here's the other movement. This is the movement I'm indicating, that even with a lot of, one of the benefits of the recession, and is that the courts, benefits, curses, the courts got so clogged, right? You can't even get a motion hearing or a trial date. I don't know what it is right now in the Bay Area, but I'm guessing it's even worse than most of the other jurisdictions. In Idaho, you can't get into see a judge without going to mediation. You're going to get a mediation order. So even the courts know that we've got something wrong here. It's just about changing that script for the community so that they think settlement first, court next. Yes?
Thanks so much. Okay, next we have Raj Abiyankar from LegalForce.
Thank you. Here, Raj, do you need this? You probably have a big booming voice. Did you bring your fireworks?
No. Great presentation.
Thank you. Do you need a quick
So my name is Raj Abiyankar. I'm the founder of LegalForce, and first I'm going to talk about ethics and professional responsibility in the internet age of law, and so that hopefully some of you will create exciting new internet companies while being lawyers, such as Wevorce, and Michelle and Jeff have done an amazing job in a big industry. So I'm going to tell you some of the challenges we faced and how we've dealt with them as we've taken what was a solo law firm, which was my law firm, and brought it to the internet age. So I started my own law firm in 2005 after working for other larger firms, and I decided, how am I going to get clients? How am I going to build my reputation? How am I going to grow my business in terms of being a lawyer as well as doing good service for clients? So my approach was to take public government data. So I looked for public government data. Being an engineer, I'm a patent attorney, so I'm an engineer first and a lawyer second. I decided I was going to take public government data and created a search engine for that. And that search engine is going to be a consumer-facing search engine. And I'm going to take a particular kind of data that had never been indexed, and data about brands, trademarks. And the filing of a trademark to a lawyer is an indicator of someone's rights towards a particular name or logo. But from a public and an average person, an average business owner's perspective, it's the protection of their brand. So we launched Trademarkia in 2009, which became a search engine for names, logos, and slogans. And it has now grown. It's become the GoDaddy of trademarks. It has fueled my small solo law firm from having less than 50 clients to having 24,000 clients. And we're adding 500 clients every month to our firm. And these become retained clients of our firm through the web. And the goal is to build deeper trust with them. And for that reason, we've recently launched a physical store in Palo Alto. So what I'm going to give you is, across this learning in 3 years, transforming from a solo law firm to a large trademark filing law firm, we've learned a lot of lessons and made a lot of mistakes, and I'm going to hopefully share some of those mistakes with you so that you can benefit from them if you were to go through that similar path. So the first lesson is, how do you incentivize world-class engineers? So the problem with the law firm entity is that it can't offer its equity to non-lawyers. So most startups in Silicon Valley, whether they're Y Combinator backed or otherwise, need engineers who are often not lawyers to really buy into the idea, especially a really top engineer. And that top engineer often isn't going to be incentivized by money. They're going to be incentivized by opportunity. And that incentive has to be tied with your company's goals. And that's difficult to do if you're a lawyer trying to make your own law firm grow. So what we've devised is a way to create a separate Delaware C corporation, which is a software technology company from the law firm, and incentivize engineers in the software technology company separate from the law firm. This also, allows outside investments to invest in the technology company and not in the law firm, because a law firm in the United States can't sell equity to non-lawyers. We didn't raise any capital. We grew without capital, but this allows a means to do that. The other is crowdsourced ethics counsel. So when we launched Trademarkia, which LegalForce is our new name of Trademarkia, in 2009, we started changing the industry. In our first full year in 2010, our law firm went from filing 20 trademarks in 2009 to filing over 4,000 trademarks in the United States in 2010. To put that in perspective, Greenberg Tarek and Wilson Sonsini, the largest firms in the country, filed 2,000 trademarks a year. So in our first full year, we filed twice as many trademark applications than the largest firms in the country, became the largest trademark filing firm in the United States. In 2011, we filed 8,000. In 2012, we filed over 10,000. This year, we'll probably file 15,000, just anywhere from 14 to 15,000 trademarks, which means that we've protected more American business brands than anyone in the history of the United States. We're the largest customer to the United States Patent and Trademark Office in terms of government fees for trademark and patent applications for individual matters. And so what happens is, across that process, you disenfranchise some other firms who typically had those clients. And all eyes become on you in terms of the smallest solo law firm growing this quickly. And attorneys and people that are members of the bar try to first find a reason to compete. And if they can't find the reason to compete, they'll find a reason to try to attack your business often. And so we were bombarded with basically crowdsourced ethics counsel from thousands of members of the bar, of the patent and trademark bar, complaining to the USPTO, complaining to the State Bar of California, complaining to us. And all of a sudden, in 2010, the government's also looking at the trademark filings. Why is this little solo law firm filing thousands of marks? And the only example they had to look towards is these television ads at nighttime, which to do invent help, and there's this whole big fraud case about these companies that filed design patents, but they really didn't. And so all this criticism starts coming to you. And so there are different ways to deal with that criticism. One is to ignore it, which is the wrong thing to do, especially when you have a bar license and a patent bar license, and you have a reputation to manage. And the second is to listen to it carefully, try to humbly listen to it. There is often a thread of rationale that makes sense. So not everything is just simply trying to attack you. So essentially what we discovered is if we listen to the rationale people have and the feedback, we make the necessary adjustments. What was this type of changes? It had to do with the wording on our website. Our goal was to make wording on our website simpler to average people. Just like Wevorce, you can say a judge, fill out this particular, what is the state of jurisdiction instead of what state do you live in. In trademark law and patent law, you have similar kinds of technical legal terms of art. Explaining that in a consumer-centric way, may not be as accurate as otherwise, and the goal is to try to make it understandable. So that others can argue may be misleading. So those types of challenges, we continuously refine the wording of our site to make it more accurate, more presentable, more acceptable to the people we serve. Today, Trademarkia attracts 2 million unique visitors every month. There's one new person on our website every second of the day, 24 hours a day, with the 45th, 100th largest website in the United States, the 12,000th largest website in the world. And what happens is, because of that, we have this media property that's been formed. And this media property now is trying to explain law in simple terms to people. And what we've done with our crowdsourced ethics council is we've changed the process where now we've worked with the USPTO, we've worked with the bar associations, where they've become our friend now. They have seen the USPTO, when they come to Silicon Valley, they want to meet with us, the new Silicon Valley office, because we've changed the process in an ethically compliant way, listening to all the feedback that we've received to make sure that we've adjusted the wording on our site, better managed our client funds and IOLTA trust accounts. So IOLTA trust accounts is the next thing. Law firms are required to maintain a separate trust account from their checking account. And in our case, when you have an online payment, where that money goes is really important. Generally with online payment, there's bank fees, there's chargebacks, because especially when you have a large property where people might not understand their credit card bill. And the state bars have had ruled differently about online payments and how to handle IOLTA trust accounts. So we've had to innovate with that, figure out ways of making sure we can comply with the state bar rules, maintain a separate trust account, and still comply with all the professional responsibility requirements. The short answer, the best practice is you should take online funds directly to your checking account in the state of California and then move them to IOLTA. Because the IOLTA account should not be an account that the banks can access themselves. The banks have to have complete independence over those accounts, even if you report them to the state bar. The state bar will have access to those accounts. And even if you were to use Wells Fargo, set up an IOLTA account, you shouldn't use Wells Fargo Payment Gateway to manage that account, because Wells Fargo Payment Gateway will be able to take money out of the account. So there are certain payment gateways that exist now which are specifically for law firms accepting online payments. So those are the payment gateways to use. Law firm naming. So most law firms, as you mentioned, Wevorce and LegalForce or Trademarket, we've chosen this because the names of our firms are designed for the internet age. Most law firms are named after last names of people. And most average consumers or even large sophisticated clients really don't know the names of law firms as well as law students do. In law schools, you will know the AM 100 law firms who recruits on campus as if you knew them all along. But if you take yourself back to before you went to law school, the chances of you knowing those names is very little, especially if you had no interest in law. And average clients, sophisticated clients, have no idea, what's Cravath, Swain and Moore from Wilson Sonsini. They really, really don't. And so on the internet, that becomes an even more of a large problem, because the naming of websites, whether it's Cravath or Wilson, if it's WSGR, that's an acronym for a law firm with a bunch of last names. And it's difficult for people to remember. It's difficult for people to remember their email addresses, their URLs. It's better to have a consumer-centric name that the internet can appreciate as well as clients can appreciate. That creates a problem with state bars. Some state bars, like the New York State Bar, does not allow trade names associated with law firms. There has to be a name of a person. So, we've come up with ways of addressing that, through the creation of DBAs to law firms. States allow DBAs to law firms, and law firms can still adopt a LegalForce branded name. Managing client deadlines. So now having 24,000 clients, there are deadlines that have to be met. So because we're taking public data and creating a search engine, we've built our own database. Whenever there's a change in status of a mark, it automatically generates communications. Those communications don't have to be impersonal. They can be designed in a way so that they're tailored toward the particular client, tailored toward making sure that there's a person in charge that they can talk with, because people really don't want to get a whole bunch of communications from random websites or the website, but rather from their attorney. So it can appear that it's come from the attorney, but really maybe an automated alert, which is tied to public deadlines of dates. At any given time, our law firm now is managing 3,000 to 4,000 office actions that are due in the next few months. And when that happens, with that level of volume, with only 15 attorneys on our staff, we need to be able to make sure we have consistent communications with our clients, which is an area where law firms often fall apart. Not too much communications, but not too little, and do it in a way that still seems personalized, so that people build a relationship with a particular firm and an attorney. Conflict checking also becomes a big problem when we're scaling at the size we are. We're adding 500 clients a month. We need to know what were other marks that were similarly filed. So we've developed our own predictive intelligence to check for conflicts. There are actual conflicts and prospective conflicts. So we've tried to segment the two. Actual conflicts are the big companies sending cease and desist letters to our own clients, whereas prospective clients who are on a blacklist, we can't represent them. Prospective conflicts are ones that might be, a conflict in the future. And should we warn the client ahead of time? And we've developed ways of algorithms inside of our own admin system to track for those conflicts. Clients who can't afford follow-up work. We deal with thousands of small businesses and entrepreneurs across the country. Most of them stay small, but some of them, most small businesses go bankrupt. So basically, they usually get a domain name, apply for a trademark, or incorporate their business at the beginning stage of their business life. That's what Trademarkia and LegalForce offers. But as they grow their business, there are sophisticated services that they may need. Our goal is to develop deeper relationships on those sophisticated services, but the vast majority go bankrupt. And so what happens when clients can't afford those follow-up services? So legally, in most law firms, whether it's Fenwick and West or Wilson Sonsini, if a client can't afford an office action to a trademark, they'll tell them, here's how to do it yourself. We're going to withdraw power of attorney. Well, we decided early on at the beginning stages of our trademarkia's growth that we're not going to do that. If a client can't afford a trademark office action but still wants the brand, we're going to respond on their behalf without charging them. And that was something, again, as a goodwill exercise to keep our allowance rates really high and build goodwill with entrepreneurs across the country. And that has worked very well. And some of those small businesses start small, but they become large. We have lots of examples of those, even celebrities. We probably represent now 36 celebrities from Fun to Gautier. So there's some really successful music bands that are now using our firm, not just for trademark and intellectual property, but the right to publicity and other kinds of things as we develop relationships that started out with a small entrepreneur but have grown to new levels of success as they've grown with our brand and as well as the firm. Client communications with online client communications. So this is similar, but really essentially what was happening is when we were sending out all these emails to our clients and having conversations with them, there are too many names. The clients were complaining to us that there's too many different names that are calling me. I don't know what's happening. So we made an attorney-centric model. So we have an attorney who manages, every attorney at our firm is managing between 1,000 to 2,000 clients. And these clients are, this attorney is in charge of those clients. There are, and most of these attorneys are 2 years out of school, maybe 3. And some of them have built $500,000 books of business of their own. And essentially, we've created a team of assistants that support that attorney. And those assistants, when they call, when they email, they always say that they're the assistant working on behalf of this attorney. And so there's always a central point of contact. Even if there's a team supporting those clients, there's always an attorney that is in charge of the legal matters assigned to them. Ethics, we've opened a legal store in terms of unauthorized practice of law. We have a lot of legal assistants, we have a lot of non-legal staff and concierges. Most of them want to go to law school, they're college graduates, but they need to be trained, especially when we're dealing with the volume of clients, the volume of inbound work, and people walking in off of the street on a retail University Avenue location to not give legal advice. And so we have training to train our legal support teams and concierges to be compassionate, to be understanding, to explain our website. And so this has also been an education process for us and our own teams. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you. If you have any questions, I can answer them. I'll try. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm impressed with the humility of the business process,
Thank you. Yes.
How much is a typical trademark for?
So the typical way that a trademark starts is either online, because our search engine, it's like a GoDaddy. They search for a name, logo, and slogan. If it's available, they can apply for it in 100 countries around the world. So beyond the United States, we filed trademarks in these other 99 countries. So it varies per country in what they select. It's more of the, if you're in China and you want to file an American trademark in Canada and Europe, and you don't know an American attorney, it's easier to use Trademarkia to do so and get a basic knockout search of that mark than it is to find who the right attorneys to speak with. So in the US, our rates aren't much lower. It's $500 per class, $159 per for the purely automated support service. So it usually will cost the client between $1,000 to $2,000 to protect an American brand. Yeah. Yeah, so we were in talks actually right now to be potentially acquired by an AM 100 firm. But beyond that, there's a number of firms that have kind of inquired and spent time with us to figure out, if this is something that they should be doing or not. But the challenge I have, even with the AM 100 firms, we probably talked to like 3-4 of them, that in serious depth, they all are partnership structures, it seems to me. The decision-making power of them is very limited because, first, understanding how we are operated, how we grew this firm, is not an explanation I need to give to a CEO or an executive board, but it's to a whole bunch of partners that have differing objectives, and it's hard to get any kind of consensus around things. Yeah, go ahead.
What are the typical rates for, or I'm sure it varies, an average cost for doing a patent through you guys?
So that's, yeah, so the patents is something we haven't quite, figured out yet, because patents are very different. They're time, labor intensive, they're unique work product per application. So our cost for patents hasn't really changed. We charge $10,000 to $15,000 for a patent application, utility. Now, the thing is, there's a whole bunch of things we can do to improve the services change, but it is still a largely human-centric process. Creating a search engine that allows the community of inventors together in one place, as we've done, the reason that we're successful has got nothing to do with our costs. It has to do with how we've organized data to make a media property out of trademark information. When a company files a trademark, it's news. When Coca-Cola files a trademark, it's news. When Apple files a trademark, it's news, because it indicates they're going to come up with a product next. It's a leading indicator of upcoming product changes. Before Trademarkia, there was no way to socialize that and make that known to all the journalists that cover a particular set of brands. Now, with Trademarkia, people subscribe to those brands, creates inbound links to our site, increases our quality score, and millions of pages become indexed very high on page 1, 2, or 3, driving lots of traffic to us. So our success isn't based on cost. It's based upon the aggregate we've created. We are the newspaper, and we're the only advertiser in it. Yeah.
In developing world university and school, like Wikipedia with MIT OpenCourseWare, we want to offer online university degrees that are MIT-centric, including law school degrees. Huge vision, all countries. You mentioned China. How much are you looking at other countries, or how much have people come to your website to engage the U.S. trademark process vis-a-vis, say, Ghana or some place in India, for example?
Yeah, we filed trademarks all over the world. We have clients from all over the world. So, in any given month, we'll have clients from over 100 countries. So, what these, they need is totally different. What we have to do as a company is to localize and, really localize our site so it's culturally relevant to them. It's not as simple as just translating it to, say, Chinese, right? We need to actually have a customer support center there. We need to actually have trademark attorneys in China that are supporting the practice there, our legal assistants there. So localizing the product is our next phase. I mean, we can pretty much 3 or 4x our revenue by localizing it to German, to Spanish, to, for Latin American markets too. So that's what we'd like to do next. It's just, to me, it's, there's so many opportunities. We're trying to pick the right ones and figure out as we go along. Yeah.
How much of a legal barrier has there been in establishing your operating presence in other countries? So, am I understanding correctly, you changing your name?
We changed our name from Trademarkia to LegalForce. Why? Because essentially, before, until just a few months ago, we had a website called Trademarkia. We had a law firm called Raja Biancar PC, which is my name, okay? And like all of a sudden, I have all these people calling for me. I mean, not a solo law firm anymore. And there's a lot of confusion between the branding of what is Trademarkia and what is this law firm. So we looked at models in Europe where you've got quality solicitors now taking a trade name across multiple firms. We said, what if we applied that to our online website as well as to our law firm? So we have LegalForce.com, which is our search engine property, which was Trademarkia. And our law firm is now renamed LegalForce RAPC Worldwide through a DBA. The firm is still Raja Biancar PC. It's got a DBA of LegalForce. So the clients are less confused that we are one family. Yet they're two different entities. The trust accounts are different, the revenues are different, and the management structures are different.
I guess my question is, why a third name rather than Trademarkia as well?
Yeah, Trademarky is a wonderful name. We have a lot of investment in that name. The problem is it's not necessarily scalable outside of trademarks. And so it's, so we are going to retain the Trademarky name. We're not abandoning that name. In fact, it's got too much goodwill associated with it. But as a company, now Trademarky is part of the LegalForce family as we expand to other areas. Because, like I say, our clients are asking for other things. And as we develop, like in the Bay Area, we have 1,800 clients. Now maybe some of those clients might need Wevorce one day. Maybe some will need other things. If we're called Trademarky, it's very hard to convince them of that. And if it's just my name, it becomes a lot of pressure for someone. We have people showing up at your door at your house. Right? So, right.
So your storefront, your retail space, why did you decide to do that?
Yeah, so part of it is changing how people access law. So we're doing well. Last year, between our two entities, we did almost $8 million in revenue with no venture funding. So we're generating cash, we're reinvesting that money. And I said, where do you reinvest money? So my philosophy has been try to make law more accessible. That's what we've done. So I could go out and get a real fancy office and impress just a few people, which are lawyers, or I could try to take that same money and create something for the public in an area which inspires. And whether its ROI makes sense or not, it changes the paradigm of what law is and how law should be practiced. So from that vantage, it's worked wonderfully well. It's only been open 6 weeks or something. But from a pure economics by itself, that location is very hard for any business to make money because it's a historic location in a prime retail street. Unless you're a manufacturer, it's going to be tough to break. But at the same time, it's changed the perception of who we are. From lawyers in an office park in Mountain View to being front and center of the change in the way lawyers think. So it's earned us the respect and place among not just our peers, but the community and their 24,000 clients, whether they're in Dubai or in China, that they're dealing with a firm that can be with them across the stages of their growth.
Okay, well, thanks so much.
Okay,
Hopefully,
thank you.
If you have more questions about CodeX specifically, you can talk to Roland, the Executive Director of CodeX, or myself, Robert. Thanks for coming. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. I look out to learn a little more about it. Understand more about it.